Hi. Have you ever suffered from self-doubt? Have you ever felt inadequate? Have you ever experienced anxiety or guilt about uh, doing something or in your job? Um, have you ever felt undeserving of praise where you've tried to kind of avoid it when somebody said, "You've done a good job" or something? Do you feel awkward trying to accept praise? Um, you just might suffer from something called the imposter syndrome, or I think it's sometimes referred to as perceived fraudulence. Apparently, up to 70% of people have experienced this. I'm guessing it's higher than that, but I guess scientifically they say 7 out of 10 people, or 70% of people, suffer from something called imposter syndrome. This hits pretty close to the mark for me. It cuts pretty close for me because it's something that I've struggled with for a long time. And I'm going to talk about that tonight. Before I do, let me introduce myself. My name is Bill, and this is Coffee at the Crossroads. Thank you for watching. If you're new here, welcome. I'm trying to sort of develop an online community where you can talk about kind of important things and offer inspiration and offer some motivation. So welcome to Coffee at the Crossroads. If you're a returning viewer, thank you. That's awesome. This is how we build a community, is if people come back and leave comments and all that stuff. So tonight it's Friday night, and I'm trying to kind of mix things up. And so tonight I want to talk about imposter syndrome. First off, I'm no expert on imposter syndrome, other than to say that it's something that I have struggled with for a long time. I've been reasonably successful in my career, and I'm kind of good at stuff, but I was, good in school and stuff like that, but I never knew how to accept a compliment. Always had huge amounts of self-doubt, was really self-conscious about my abilities. And it turns out that that's something called the imposter syndrome, and it also turns out that it's pretty darn common. It can be an issue, right? It can be problematic, and it can get in the way of our actual success, and it can certainly get in the way of us being happy and us enjoying things. When you're constantly looking over your shoulder going, "Hey man, is somebody going to figure out that I'm not really good at this? Or what if they find out that I'm not as smart as I think I am?" Um, you know, then that can really undermine any of your successes, right? And I mean, sometimes it's a real driving force. When you feel that self doubt or that anxiety, or you feel inadequate, it can really drive you to really try hard, right? And so it can mask a lot of things, right? Like that sort of effort and that kind of perfectionism can mask, these struggles and the anxiety that you're experiencing on the inside, or in your quiet times. And before I get into it in any further depth, I want a little make a little shout out. I thought of this because someone else in my YouTube kind of community did a video on perfectionism. And so a shout out to Laura Yee from Midlife Matters. She did a great video on perfectionism and her struggles with it. And much of what she said really landed for me. So yeah, so I wanted to, I watched Laura's video, and I wanted to, I sort of put it into my own context, and upon my reflections, my own personal reflections, I sort of thought, you know what? It sounds like Laura suffers from imposter syndrome. So I'm not here to diagnose anybody else. I'm not a medical professional by any means, but I know that it's something that I sort of feel like I struggle with, and much of what she talked about, and much of I saw the comments on her video. A lot of people, it really resonated, and so sort of led me here. And so, I've done a bit of research, and again, I'm no expert at this, but just there are sort of 5 personality types that fall into this and can be prone to imposter syndrome. And to be honest, when you hear them, you think, at least I personally think, is imposter syndrome the root of it, or is the personality type the root of it? Is it a chicken and an egg thing? But I think as we kind of walk through the 5 types, if it resonates for you, you're going to go, you know what? Yeah, I have those same habits, and I suffer from that anxiety or those feelings of inadequacy, or the feeling like, oh my goodness, they're going to find out that I'm not really good at this, or that I don't really know what I'm talking about. So let's get into them. The 5 of them are being a perfectionist, being what they call a natural genius, being a soloist, which is one that I can relate to, being an expert, or being what they classify as a superhero. And so the perfectionist, I think, is pretty obvious, and it's something that I referred to Laura's video, that desire that everything has to be done just perfectly, that you have to get every detail right, and if every detail isn't right, then it's all just a waste, right? Then it isn't good enough because every detail isn't perfect. If you can't do it perfectly, then you don't do it at all. And certainly, I particularly when I was younger, I struggled with that. And it wasn't so much the perfectionism, it was more that it became a blocker, that it was like, if I wasn't good at something, I just didn't do it. If I couldn't be the best at it, then I didn't even want to try. And obviously that's not a healthy way to approach life. We talk about living with, letting yourself fail, and being able to laugh at yourself and not taking everything so seriously and all that stuff. And so, perfectionism, obviously, you take it very seriously, right? So the other personality type, so that's the first type. And the second type is the natural genius. And again, I'm not talking about, Mensa IQ of 140 or whatever. By natural genius, they mean somebody who's just kind of naturally good at stuff, and I'm sure we all went to school with, good at sports, got good marks, handsome, got all the girls, or, beautiful, got all, had all the attention from the boys or whatever, all that stuff where they're just sort of naturally gifted. Those people can be prone to the imposter syndrome as well, or that perceived fraudulence, because they kind of go, you know what, I'm just coasting here, and really it's coming really easily, but they're going to find out, suddenly it's going to get hard, and they're going to find out that I'm a sham, kind of thing. And the third type is the soloist. And this is one that I can kind of relate to. I don't want to take advice from anybody else, and I don't want people to help me. I want to do it all on my own, and I want to figure stuff out on my own. And again, that's that sort of, it's just like, I don't want anybody helping me because I don't want them to find out that maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, kind of thing, right? And obviously that's not how life works, right? We all need help. We all need inputs. We can all learn from other people. And so that soloist kind of mentality can really get in the way of progress and happiness, right? And the fourth thing is being an expert, where you've done your research and you've done the study, and you've left no stone unturned, and you are an expert, and you learn everything and you know everything. But there's always, you're always worried about, oh, there's something I don't know, like I'm really good at this, or I know a lot about this topic, but what if there's something else I don't know, right? And again, that gets in the way of your progress, and of course you don't know everything. No one knows everything. And so, it can get in the way of your happiness and your ability to kind of relate to colleagues when you feel that you have to be the expert all the time, right? And then the fifth and final thing is that superhero mentality, and that is that you're just constantly pushing to be better and better in everything. You've got to be great. You've got to be a great chef, and you've got to be perfectly fit, and you've got to be really smart, and your hair has to be perfect, and your clothes have to be perfect. And it's just that everything you do has to be just so, and you're constantly pushing yourself to be better. to do it a little faster, or to be a little bit stronger, or to reach a little bit further, and again, those things they're exhausting, right? And they lead to anxiety. You can never live up to those kinds of ideals, right? And so that's ultimately, then you end up with self-doubt, like, oh, what if I don't know the thing? What if I'm not perfect? What if I'm not the superhero, right? And then that becomes, can become debilitating. And it certainly does not lead to happiness, right? I mean, I don't have any answers here really tonight. I hope by sharing, someone watches this and goes, hey, that's me, and I feel that as well, and you don't feel alone, right? 7 out of 10 people, right? They say, though I think it's higher. Again, not a scientific measure by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just guessing that it's higher than 70%. That we've all felt that at some point, even if we don't feel it in our daily lives constantly, or in our work life or whatever. When you are good at something, you've kind of had those doubts going, you know what, I don't want to speak up because somebody probably knows more about this than I do, or I don't want to brag because you know what, it could all come crashing down or whatever. And I'm not suggesting bragging is great, but you know what I mean? Instead of being able to accept your abilities and go, hey, I'm actually good at that. Or, hey, let me give it a shot. I'm good at that. We tend to, many of us tend to kind of just go, I'm just, let me sit back, right? Like I said, I don't have a bunch of answers. I think, studies have shown that it usually starts very young. If we have demanding parents, or we're in a for myself, I mean, my parents weren't overly demanding. They were somewhat demanding, at least my dad. But it was that I was in a family of like high achievers, right? My sisters all got really good marks in school, and my brother was, really smart guy and all that stuff. And so there was this kind of like, if to fit in, to live up to this whole thing, I'm going to have to try really hard. And you really start focusing on the things you don't know, and you start picking apart, the weaknesses and the, your flaws. You become a perfectionist, and you can isolate yourself and become a soloist because you don't want anybody to find out, kind of thing, right? But ultimately, it all comes from a personal sense of low self-esteem. We don't hold ourselves in high regard, and so we're afraid that somebody's going to find out, right? Even if you're really good at your job, and your colleagues think you're amazing, and your boss loves you, and the company thinks you're amazing, if you suffer from imposter syndrome, you can really have all these self-doubts, and it's usually rooted in low self-esteem. Where do we go from here? Again, I'm no psychologist, sociologist, so I'm not really here to diagnose anybody or to help anybody. These are obviously just my own opinions. I hope by sharing, hopefully this speaks to somebody and other people, and they can go, yeah, you know what, by sharing, hey, it's good to know I'm not alone, right? In researching for this video, I did find that there are some things we can do to help ourselves. And just cut yourself some slack first off. But the first thing you can do is to acknowledge the feeling that, hey, I'm feeling anxious, or hey, I feel like I'm inadequate here. I feel like I don't deserve this praise, or I feel like I don't deserve this job. I got a promotion or whatever, or I look around and I feel like everybody else here is smarter than me, or they're better at this than I am, and I feel like I'm unworthy of it. So acknowledge that. Just, take a moment to be mindful and go, I'm feeling this right now. That's the first kind of step. Well, I feel like I'm inadequate. I'm feeling anxious about this situation. Like so many things in life, talk about it. Talk to a colleague, or talk to your partner, or a family member, or talk to, sit down with your boss or whatever and say, hey, I'm feeling like I'm not doing my job well, or I'm anxious over this because. And hopefully just by sharing that, acknowledging it, and then sharing it, it'll decompress, and you should get feedback from your boss or your colleagues going, dude, what are you talking about? You're awesome at this, right? And not that them saying that is going to necessarily, smooth it all over. It does help to open up, right? back to that sort of scenario of comparing yourself to the to your colleagues. One of the things we can do is to just stop comparing ourselves to other people. Stop comparing in what we have, in our lives or our house or the car or the whatever, and just embrace the tasks that we're given, and embrace the job that we're doing, and cut ourselves some slack. And if you're not comparing, then you're not opening yourself up to that feeling of, oh, hey, they're better at that particular thing than I am, and that person's better than I am at this or whatever. So, that's a few tips and tricks. Again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not here to kind of diagnose or solve anybody's problems. But hopefully by talking about it, you can feel like you're not alone. And certainly, it's something that I can relate to. So again, shout out to Laura Yee. Thank you for your perfectionist video. It really, spawned this idea for me. Yeah, I hope you got something out of this, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, there is a little subscribe button that you could hit. That would be fantastic. And there's some other videos coming up. There should be a playlist along the side. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment. Give me the little thumbs up. Yeah, and I hope to see you again at Coffee at the Crossroads. Cheers.